Now configure router to update hardware clock. Configure R1, R2, and R3 periodically. Um, Update the hardware clock with the time learned from NTP. Verify that the hardware clock was updated using show clock command. So we first go to the 3, enable Cisco ENPA 55 config T, and now with the NTP server, this is the server 192.168.1.5, 192.168.1.5, and then update NTP update calendar. Update calendar. And we do the same thing on R2. Enable no, R3. Let's do the R3. Enable Cisco ENPA 55 config T. Now NTP server, this is the server 192.168.1.5.1.5 NTP update calendar. Now we go to the R2. Go to the R2, enable Cisco ENPA 55. Config T. NTP server 192.168.1.5 192.168.1.5 NTP update calendar. Now so now verify that the hardware clock was updated using command show clock. Show CLOCK. See that the November 17th 2016 and then time, and let's go to the this one. Do shows clock has been updated. Do shows CLOCK clock has been updated. Now configure router to timestamp log messages. Configure timestamp service for logging on router. Now configure router to timestamp log messages. Configure timestamp service for logging on the routers. So we go to the R1. We type service, and then what service we're looking for? We're looking for timestamp. TI service timestamp, and then a question mark. We type log, then another question mark. We type date and time, and then question mark. We have to use a millisecond, and then service timestamp, service timestamp. Then we're gonna use debug, date and time, and then millisecond. And then after that, millisecond. Now configure routers to update hardware clock, configure routers to timestamp for log messages, and now configure router to log messages to the Syslog server. Steps 1. Configure the router to identify the remote host, which is Syslog server that will receive logging messages. The router console will display a message that logging has started. Now Syslog, this is the Syslog client. Syslog protocol allows login messages to be sent from a Syslog client, which is this router, to the Syslog server. This is the Syslog server, so logging message can be sent to this Syslog server from the Syslog client. While the ability to send logs to central Syslog server is part of the good security solution, it can also potentially be a part of a security problem. The biggest issue is the enormity of the task of evaluating information. This information includes sifting through the various logs and events, then correlating the events from several different network devices and application servers, and determining the type of action to take based on vulnerability assessment of the incidents. Now, to configure the system login, these are the following are the steps. We first set the destination logging host using the logging host command, and this is the destination host. This is going to be the server. As we are, this is going to be the server destination host. Now, then you can set a login severity level using login trap. We have used this login trap for the to find out the severity level. Now, then we have logging source interface. This command login source interface. This command specifies that the syslog packets contains IPv4 or IPv6 address to specific, interface, regardless of which interface the packet uses to exit the router. So this is the one they're going to be using it to exit the router. And then fourth step is enable login with the login on command. Login on be turned on by using this command login on, and if you put off, it's going to be turned off for this destination. And so configure the router to identify the remote host, which is Syslog server, this one, and that will receive logging message. The router console will display message that logging has started. So we go to the R1, we go to the R3, and then we type we go to the R1, enable Cisco NPA 55 config T. Then now we type login, and then question mark, and then we're going to be using the host, host, and then on the question mark we have to put the host address, which is 192.168.1.5. Then we put a question mark, then it's a carriage return, and now we're going to be using command called login on command. We're going to be turning on the login system. Then we use login. We're going to be using buffer. We just set the buffer login parameters. Buffer. Carriage return, and then again login, and then we're going to be using console carriage return do wr. We do this to the other router also. Enable config T, and then we type login, and then host, and then this is the server 192.168.1.5, 192.168.1.5, and then we type login, and then we type buffer, and then login, console, and then we do this in the third one. Enable config t login question mark host. This is the host 192.168.1.5. Login, and then buffer, and then login console do wr. Now the reason we use this logging on command is uh, we enabling the logging using this login on command, and now we also use the buffer command. Logging can be turned on and off for this destination individually using this buffer command. So this buffer command um, allows us to either turn on or off of this destination individually. Um, Now, if the login on command is disabled, no message are sent to the destination. Only the console receive the messages. So make sure that you turn the login on. The turning the login on means that you're enabling the router to send the message to the server, and but you are allowing the router to generate the console messages. Now we need to examine verify the logging configuration using the command show login. So now if we use now examine logs of the Syslog server. From the service tab of the Syslog server, this is the Syslog server, this is the service tab. We will select the Syslog service. We selected the Syslog service button. Observe the logging message received from the router. So this is the host. This is the logging message that we have received from the router. 10.2.2.1. So this is the 10.2.2.1. So we received this message from the router. Now a long message can be generated on the server by executing commands on the router. For example, entering and exiting global configuration mode will generate an informational configuration messages. Let me see. We go config t exit. Now we go syslog server, syslog, and then we see that this is the message that being generated that because we exited or entered the global configuration mode. Another thing that we have noticed is that there is a number and F on every messages. This is 5, 6, 5. Each number represents specific messages. Now, In this picture, you can see the different level of messages. Cisco devices produce syslog messages as a result of network events. Every syslog message contains a severity level and a facility. This is the severity level. Um, the smaller numerical levels are the more critical. This is the zero, so this is the more critical um, syslog alarm. The severity level of the message can be set to control where each type of message is displayed. For example, on the console or on the other destination. So if it's you happen to be thinking it's more severe, you better set both console and syslog server so that anytime you enter any configurations or command in the console, so that it can automatically notice it and uh, take immediate precautions. Now, each syslog level has its own meaning. In this picture, that you have zero, which is emergency. Um, Cisco operating software could not load, so this is an emergency messages. It's a panic condition normally broadcast to all users. And when it's a one, it's a log alert. It's temperature too high, such as temperature too high. So this is conditional. The condition that should be corrected immediately, such as corrupted system database. So as using corrupted system database is overutilizing the CPU cycles. As a result, the router becomes temperature becomes too high, and then you have a tree which is called log critical. This is examples is unable to allocate memory, so it could be a critical alarm. It critical conditions for example device errors. And then you can also see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are generally uh, after 5. So error messages. This is warning messages. So you can see that each alert level syslog messages represents a different severity level. Um, you can see in this messages, this shows an entry example for a level 5 syslog messages. So level 5 indicating that someone has configured the router using BTY. Um, somebody has using telnet and VTY line, and this is why it has given you error messages. And it also shows the time